everybody, welcome to another reading video. I am so excited to talk about all of the books that I read in July, as well as my August reading prompt. I hope you all had a great reading month in the month of August, or July. Hope you all had a great reading month in the month of July, and also just a great month in general. I would say for me, my reading month got off to a rocky start and then also had a rough finish. So in between there, it was fine, but I read 3 physical books, 1 audiobook, and I had 3 DNFs, which that's how you know you're in a slump. I really wanted to lean into this prompt, especially with it being the height of summer, at least in Tennessee. It is scorching hot outside when it's not raining. But if you don't remember, July's reading prompt was summer setting. So all of these books had summer settings. They took place in the summer. I kind of wanted to find books that almost had the summer setting as like a character. Some of these books, very much summer was another character, and it felt very like tangible to be there. Like it felt very immersive. Some of these books, summer was just the time of year and that was it. It wasn't even necessarily taking place in a tropical or like beachy setting. It was just summer wherever they were. Before we go on, I also want to say I invite you to do these reading prompts with me. I like reading 1 prompt for the whole month, but if you wanted to just choose 1 book for this prompt each month, that would be fine too. I just think it's fun to have 1 topic or prompt and then a bunch of people choose different books for that same topic or prompt. That would be so fun to do together and to talk about. But let's go ahead and get into the books that I read in July. We're gonna start with the DNFs. Just kind of get that out of the way. I feel like it's also important to say all of the books that I DNF'd were audiobooks. They were ones that I was listening to. So it was more so like an audiobook slump, but still a slump nonetheless. The first book that I stopped listening to on audio was Summer Sisters by Judy Blume. I've never read a Judy Blume book, and obviously this cover, the title, it's giving summer. It's interesting because the reason I was drawn to this book was actually the reason that I DNF'd this book. What I thought would pull me into the book were how many characters there were and the different audio narrators, but that's actually why I stopped reading this, because there were so many people to keep track of. It just got to be kind of too much work for a book to just leisurely read or listen to, and I really didn't get very far. It's always, at least for me, such a hard thing to do to start a book and learn new people, learn new personalities. I don't know, it's one of those stories that sounded intriguing just reading the little synopsis on the back, but then once I got into it, I just wasn't maybe more so in the mood for it. But overall, the story just didn't really seem something I was interested in anymore. So I think I might end up giving this to a little library because I don't think I'm gonna come back to this. The next book that I DNF'd was Husbands and Lovers by Beatrice Williams. You're following 2 different timelines. One woman in the present who is raising her son who needs medical attention, and his father is a famous rock star. The son doesn't know that. The other timeline is a woman in Egypt, way in the past. So there's just kind of a lot going on here. I felt like I knew where the story was going. It felt very obvious why these 2 stories were connected. What I really didn't like, and what just turned me off from this book completely, was the past timeline of the woman in Egypt having an affair with her husband. And I really didn't like the way that it was written and things they were doing. It just felt very icky, and I didn't want to be a part of that. And I think I will also be giving this to a little library because I don't want it anymore. I'll get to the last book that I DNF'd a little bit later, but I'm just gonna start from the lowest rated to the highest rated. So my lowest rated this month was actually only 3 stars, so not terrible. I read Noelle Eiley's newest book, The Last to Drown. This is on Kindle Unlimited. I think all of her books are on Kindle Unlimited. This book was a wild ride. Following our main character, I'm blanking on her name, but she is going whitewater river rafting. I think that's what it's called. So we're following her in her grief after she loses her husband, and she decides to go river rafting. Years ago, on the same stretch of water that they're on, one of the guides of the river rafting company killed a bunch of people on the tour. He was brought to justice, he went to jail, or he died or something like that. So it's years later, and there are a bunch of people going on this river rafting tour, and there are guides helping them on this journey. The first night, the main character thinks that she hears noises in the night. Next morning, they wake up, their emergency satellite phone is gone. Different things are missing. Things are just kind of off. I loved the intensity in this thriller. It felt so real, like almost like I was there, and reading this at night definitely made my skin crawl. What I was expecting from this book was for that to kind of continue, just different things throughout the day, throughout the night, more things would go missing, people would maybe trail off, if you know what I mean, one by one. Like I kind of thought that's how the story was gonna go, and then there would be sort of like a reveal at the end. But I feel like we got to the action way too soon. It kind of was revealed what really was going on maybe at the 30% mark, and then you have the rest of the story in a bunch of action. And I didn't really like that. I kind of wanted it to be strung out a little bit more and keep me guessing. Not to mention that the twist that was revealed at the 30% mark, I guessed, so it wasn't really that satisfying. And once you know what happens, you know what happens. There's really nothing else that's coming after that. It's more so suspense. Like there's not really any more mystery to the book after that. It's just thrill. This book does take place in the summer. However, because they're on the water and they're river rafting, it does feel like the cold water is almost another character because of how it affects them in this high stress time. So for that, it was 3 stars because it did leave me wanting more, but I would really like to read more of Noelle Eiley's books. Next, I read Between the Ocean and the Stars by M.M. Cochrane. This was such a sweet little YA romance. In this one, we're following Sam, and he just moved to Ophelia Island, Florida. He becomes very smitten and interested in Georgia Gabehart, who kind of is like the troubled girl on the island. Her family is not very kind to her. Her boyfriend is definitely not kind to her at all. The whole island is getting ready for a hurricane that is coming very soon, and after the hurricane hits, George's boyfriend goes missing. And so Sam is trying to figure out what happened to him. He knows that George's boyfriend is not very kind to her, or to just people in general. So you're walking with Sam as he tries to figure out what happened to him, all while still settling into his new life on Ophelia Island, kind of dealing with his crush on Georgia, making different friends along the way. What I really enjoyed about this book was the ending and the way that it all wrapped up. I felt like it was very real and not necessarily a bow on top. For a YA book, I really enjoyed how this book was written and the story that was told. It was just very sweet and pure, and I really enjoyed that. So I give this book 4 stars. This book takes place in the summer, so I would highly recommend for a summer read. I feel like with the hurricane setting almost, it could be even like on a rainy fall day, but still takes place in the summer. So this would be a really great YA book if you're looking for one, and it is also under 300 pages. Another 4-star read was Spectacular Things by Beck Doreystein. This book takes place over the course of many years, but a lot of it does take place in the summer. In this one, we're following Mia and Cricket, and they are 2 sisters who are very different from each other. Their mom raised them to be soccer players, but really only Cricket sticks with that dream and makes it her goal in life to become a famous soccer player. In the beginning, we watch Mia and Cricket come together after Cricket wins, I think, like the World Cup, and then Mia just has her baby. We watch as there is a really big ask from one of the sisters to the other sister, and then begins the story. We go back to the past and watch them being brought up and watch how soccer is instilled in these 2 girls' life, because the mother was a soccer player as well. And even from that point on, you can see that there is already sacrifice being asked of one of the sisters for the other sister. It really is the strongest theme in this book, is sacrifice, and what would you do to sacrifice for the person you love who has already sacrificed for you. I love reading sibling dynamics. I don't have any siblings, so it's just interesting to read about in the first place. I love how the book started with this big ask, and then we go back in time and watch them grow up until we get to that point at the beginning of the book and watch to see what happens next. I'm really happy with the way that it ended. I thought it was very sweet and the correct choice. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is an exclusive summer book because it does take place over the course of many years during different times of the year. But I think especially if you have sisters, you would really enjoy this book. And it was also just really fun to read during the World Cup. So that was a nice little touch too. Lastly, my highest rated book for the month of July was Christina Lauren's newest book, The Romance Revival. I listened to this on audio and I will say that the audiobook made the book for me. I really think if I read this physically, I wouldn't have the same reaction to the book. I feel like the audiobook narrators really made this book. In this one, we are following Emery, and she has a very top secret job. So much so that her family and her own husband don't really know what she does. Because of her job, this causes her to be distant from her husband, Luca. And as she is late getting home to celebrate her anniversary with her husband, she witnesses her husband get hit by a car. But because of her top secret job, she actually has a way to bring him back. I thought this book was actually hilarious. I really enjoyed the banter. I loved the side characters. I loved that they had a golden retriever husky mix named Honey. More than that, I honestly loved the concept for this story. I thought it was so interesting. I've never read something like this before. I've never even read a Christina Lauren book before, so this was off to a great start. This book is tagged as a summer reads on Goodreads, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily like important to the plot, but it is just fun to read a romance in the summertime. So I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4.25. I know I'm getting specific with the rating, but I just feel like it is more than a 4-star. It just had such a fun storyline and I was along for the ride. So because I really enjoyed my first book by Christina Lauren, I thought I would pick up another one set during the summer. So I started The Paradise Problem, also on audio. I really like the concept of that one as well, with this rich man asking his fake wife to continue to be fake married to him for the sake of his family. I really don't know what it was about this book, but I just wasn't really interested after getting to know all the characters. I felt like I wasn't really interested in knowing how it ended, mainly because I kind of know how it's going to end anyway. However, I did read a little bit on Kindle and I think I had a better reading experience with it being physically read rather than people narrating it for me, because I don't think I liked the way that they were narrating it. It felt like kind of over the top. So if I pick that one up again, I think I'll just physically read it. All right, those are the books that I read in the month of July. If you've read any of those books or if you read any summary books, let me know. I feel like I have a few more summary books left in me, but at the same time, I am so ready for fall. But we still have a few months until we get there. So until then, let's talk about the reading prompt for the month of August. My reading prompt is going to be my physical TBR. I would really like to just stick to the books that I have on my physical TBR. I'm also going to extend it to my Kindle, see what I can get from there as well. I've had a lot of those books on my Kindle for a very long time, so I'm including those as well, but want to stick mainly to what I have with me and not go out and buy something. So because I want to read from my physical TBR, let's go to my shelf and see what we can find. All right, here we have my TBR shelf. These are all of the books that I have yet to read. So many of these books jump out at me, but I will say there is one clear choice for this prompt, and that is the next book in the When in Rome series. I know I absolutely need to read this for this month. If you've seen my previous videos, I started the When in Rome series back in February and just have kind of spaced them out. This is the third book in the series. I love these siblings. I love the family dynamic in these books. And in this one, we are following Emily, who is Noah's sister. All the different Walker siblings get their own book, so this is Emily's book. And I think she is, no, she's not the chef. I think she's the teacher. I'm not too familiar with her because haven't read her book yet, so I don't really know, but I do know that I really want to get to the next When in Rome book, and that'll be this one. Another book I think I want to add to this TBR is going to be The Correspondent. I just think I want something with a little bit more depth and meaning to it. Not that the When in Rome book won't have depth or meaning, but I hope you just know what I mean. Like, I feel like a literary fiction is just gonna dive in a little bit deeper. And this book is really interesting because if you don't know, The Correspondent follows our main character through different correspondence. So emails, letters, things like that. And I don't really know the exact premise of this. I went to Virginia Evans' book event here in Nashville back in May and haven't read it yet. And I think I was the only one there who hadn't read it. So I really do want to get to this. It just seems like it'll be a sweet book. I also feel like, going based off of the cover, it kind of gives like end of summer, beginning of fall kind of vibes or looks. Maybe I'm just going off of the colors, but Either way, I do really want to get to this month. Then we have my current read. I already pulled this from my TBR shelf yesterday, and so far so good. We have All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. This is her debut book. I read her book The Missing Half last year, and I thought it was okay. I feel like it was a good mystery just kind of for the time. Like, it was more of an in the moment kind of book where I really was obsessed with the story and what was going to happen, and then once the book finished and everything was done and I was satisfied, I moved on and I didn't really think about it anymore. But this one seems a little bit darker than that one. So in this one so far, we are following two different timelines. In the past timeline, we are following the family of a missing girl in a small town. And then in the present timeline, we are following another woman years later who is coming back to that small town. And in that town, there is another child that is missing. And I guess the events of the current disappearance is very similar to the past disappearance. Kind of just going through the history of the town and what happened, why is it happening again, that sort of thing. Yesterday, I stopped reading. I DNF'd The Paradise Problem. So kind of being in that slump mindset, I just wanted to pick up something that would hopefully be very interesting right off the bat, and I'll say that it is. I'm also going to extend this prompt to my Kindle because I have so many books on my Kindle that I have yet to read that have been on here for a very long time. Having said that, I do not know where to start. One book I do know I'm going to get to is When She Returned by Lucinda Berry. My friend and I have a little two-person book club, and it's so fun, and we are going to read that this month. That one follows a woman who returns after being missing, and it seems like she's returning from a type of cult or something like that, and I think her family is just trying to figure out what actually happened while she was gone. I don't know much of it. It is on Kindle, but it also is on audio, so I think on my phone I'm just gonna listen to it. As for physically reading, I don't know, because I usually read about 3 physical books. So with me already having picked out 3 physical books, I don't really know if I'll have time to fit in another book. But if I did, part of me kind of wants to read Divine Rivals, because I've heard that that kind of has some like Christian undertones in them. And I think that the author, Rebecca Ross, is a Christian as well. So I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out, I guess. I don't know. I know it's not a Christian book or Christian fantasy book, but I've just heard that if you're a Christian and you like fantasy, to read that. So that's kind of what's pulling me into that. So I'm thinking maybe Divine Rivals. This is even if I have time. Or one of my friends suggested North Country by K.A. Tucker. I've never read K.A. Tucker. I know she has Simple Wild. Never read that book. It does look interesting, but I'm thinking either Divine Rivals or North Country. All right, I'm not gonna include my Kindle because I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm just gonna go over the books as a recap for my August prompt. So we have my current read, which is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers, kind of a mystery thriller vibe. And we have Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This is most definitely a romance. And then we have The Correspondent by Virginia Evans, which is literary fiction. So I think we got a good mix of a bunch of different genres and stories to read in the month of August. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I am so excited to dive into all these books and let you know at the end of the month if they were enjoyable. I have some really fun book-related videos coming soon, so I'm going to be working on those, and they will also be going up in the month of August. But I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you have a great reading month, and I'll see you in the next one.